So, my name is not Hans-Jürgen Burkard, but I did forget to mention one thing. This is a walk of solidarity. What I mean is, some photographer is the first, and one will be the last. And clever as we are, we took a woman last. Okay, so at least the men have to stay till the end. So I expect, I really mean it, I expect that we are the same number at the end as in the beginning. I hope you know what I mean. Stay tuned. Hans-Jürgen, it's your turn. The floor is yours. Mr. Hans-Jürgen Burkard.
Okay. Thanks a lot. I'm not that talkative as Lois said, and those pictures, I just wondered that he was putting them up there on the walls. This is a project which I'm still working on, and we just agreed that we are doing a new book about it, and I've sent him some of the pictures just to look at, and he put them on the wall already. It's not that many. The exhibition of this book An Tagen wie diesen, there is some pictures there, some in the park, but I like this kind of dog stuff. Unfortunately, the dog on that picture is dead already. Her name was Akira, and she had a cancer, like many dogs nowadays. So last year, on the way back from Denmark, I stopped in St. Peter-Ording, which is a beach in northern Germany at North Friesland, and this is the best dog beach in Europe. You see, by far, it's 800 meters wide sand beach and the sea, and there is all kinds of people with all kinds of dogs, Russians with a Cane Corso, old ladies with Chihuahuas, people with Rhodesian Ridgebacks like the one who was shitting on the grass a few minutes ago. And all of them have to tell a story. A lot of the dogs which came from kill pens all over Eastern Europe or Spain. I take pictures of these people and their dogs. I have a huge battery in my backpack and a huge flash, and I overflash the sun mostly. I have the people tell the stories about the dogs. An example, a letter I got 2 days ago, there was a woman writing me, "Oh my God, what a beautiful picture of my pack. The dog on the left side I got through bullets in her skull from bird shots. The one in the middle, the Tees dog, was used 9 years in a box as a kind of multiplier, and now we freed her. And the woman on the right side, I was considered to pass on to other people, but when other people came, she always barked at them, and then after the people had left, she came to me and was sweet to me, and now I keep the dogs. All of these kind of stories I will tell with all of these pictures. I think there's 3 more on the other side, and it's about normal people, and I photograph in a way that my mother can understand pictures. I don't want to use a kind of instruction how to understand pictures, and so I have now almost 160 photographs of 160 different people with 60 dogs, and I'm still taking pictures this summer, and in fall, Lois and me, we are going a beautiful, nice book. That's about the dogs. And now I think we go to this other thing. There was Lois and I, we did a nice book. And so this was this book. And unfortunately, it's sold out completely. See, nothing left anymore. And from this book, there are some of the pictures which you see there and there. Wasn't Lois? Okay. Shall I talk about those things and these other pictures now, or shall we go on? And okay, I'm just starting. This was the project I did together with Lois. As many of you know, I spent most of my time in Eastern Europe, in Russia, where I went for Stern, 1989. Photographed the end of the Soviet Union and the new Russia, how new Russia developed. Before, I was working 10 years for Geo magazine and traveling the world to go to all of these exotic places. Then I was in Russia from 89 to into the thousands. But I never worked in Germany, almost never worked in Germany. And one day the new chief editor of Stern asked me to do a story similar to a German photographer, Bob Lebeck, who had photographed 18 double pages, one story in 18 double pages. But that didn't work out with that new story. And one of the editors of Stern came to me and said, I always wanted to do something about contemporary German music, about the texts. Because when I was young, I'm 73 now, when I was young, we didn't speak, there was no German song texts. Everything German was considered nationalist or conservative. So it was the Stones, it was the Beatles, the Who, whatever. Everything was in English. But now there's a lot of young German groups singing in German. So this editor gave me a package of about 250 song texts and said, if you are driving through Germany now, try to find pictures to this text. So I had everything from An Tagen wie diesen to Capital Bra, from whatever, from Silbermond to whatever song text. And I was not doing stories, which I did with Stern. I did single pictures. Yeah, and when we talked about a publication, Lois said, you always talk so much about the pictures and how the pictures came to existence. Why don't you write these stories to the pictures? And I always worked as a photojournalist, and I wanted to be an artist at least for once. So I said, oh no, the pictures should talk to only the song texts. All the other texts are distracting. So we were fighting in the evening, shouting at each other on the telephone in the middle of the night. In the end, I have to admit, Lois was right. Because I had a bunch of exhibitions with that thing, and what people tell me, they go from picture to picture, and they're all reading the little making-ofs, the texts, and they consider it necessary information to the pictures. See, because just for example, this picture right there, a guy is shooting a heroin mixture up into the vein at his neck with a little mirror. This is in Frankfurt near the railway station. When I photographed him, it's not so easy. I did a story once about a junkie who became a multimillionaire, so I knew the place because this junkie had showed me the place where he once was hanging out. So every 10 meters somebody is shooting up in his some trucks. So while he was doing that, he said, watch out, the Russians behind you, they're interested in your cameras. So there were some Russian or Ukrainian junkies, I don't know, Russian speaking behind me. And he said, you better run away. So I was going away quickly. Then I came to Hamburg and the lawyers of Stern said, we cannot print this picture without a written statement that he agreed. So I had to go back to Frankfurt and trying to find a junkie in the drug scene in Frankfurt. So I put out a reward of 50 euros. Find this guy for me, and all these junkies who are always in search of money were trying to find him, and they found him. And he didn't even want a single dime as a reward for. He wrote me a statement, made a little smiley on it, and said, "To the nicest photographer I ever met." He was from the United States, and said the only condition is don't publish it in the United States. I don't want to see that I don't want that my father sees what happened to me. And there's a lot of every picture has a story, but I don't want to talk about it. It's much easier. You go from picture to picture and read what I was writing under it, how this came to existence. The picture just behind you, Lois told me, he had to change because there was a picture of a swinger club in Germany and somebody in the town didn't like it so much, and in order to avoid problems, they had to take it off and put another picture. This picture we never could print before because when I took this picture, all the kids there were some kids under 16. And when you have kids under 16, both parents have to agree that you publish it. And one of the parents of this group didn't want, so I could at that time not publish the whole pictures. Now they are all older 16 and they agreed. Now we can put it up there, you see. This is the problem nowadays with the rights, the personality rights to pictures. It's very, very difficult to photograph. The dog story, just the other day, I was writing 156 personal emails to each of the dog owners asking for the permission to potentially be published, because a lot of people at the beach in the bikinis and bathing suits, they are not so young anymore, not so beautiful. Not everybody is a model. They are little children. So this is a real problem nowadays to do that. But then there's a lot of other photographers who will talk about the story. So I just read, if you have time, read the little making of story. And the only thing I wanted to say, for me, who never has worked in Germany, it was a kind of, I rediscovered my own country, you see, which I had almost forgotten, because for Geo I was always abroad, and I found very, very nice landscapes, very nice people, very strange people. I had problems with some, and with others people write me letters. Come to the Eifel, that's a kind of area close to the border to Belgium. If you ever come to the Eifel, I'm a baker. There's always a piece of torte for you. And this is what I like when I'm a photographer, the personal experience, those things, the people you meet. This is what photography is for me, not the end result as a picture.
For me, this exhibition counts very much, because this award, this photo award, which is the largest in the world, with a record entrance number of
56, more than 656,000 submissions.
56,000. We do the Global Peace Photo Award, and we get 22,000 entrants, and we celebrate that. I don't know how much champagne they drink in Oldenburg or in Vienna. So 665,000 entrants. This is an enormous amount of photography. And it's a statement. It's a statement for the importance of photography. And for me, this exhibition is really the symptom for the cause of having a festival. Because these are the amateurs in the word sense, which means lovers. They really love what they do dearly. We professional photographers love also dearly what we do, but in a different way. We are more academic, let's put it this way. But this is pure emotion, dedication to a certain moment. It's more about the moment. We are storytellers. We have narratives. We have long-term projects. We have documentary issues. We have also issues with getting the permits to have the pictures printed. So in this case, it's really the passion of individuals. And it's an enormous creation of an archive of mankind. If you take this every year, 500,000 pictures. How many years does the award exist now? 40?
Since in fact, it was the 6th CV photo award, and it exists since 2012. So a certain history when it comes to photo contest. We are very proud of that. Hello? Yeah, it works again. Thank you very much. We decided to keep it quite short and brief this year. So thank you for highlighting one of my points. Then there are just two more points I want to highlight. And one of the most important thing is it's really an honor for me, and thank you very much for joining us today. It's really an honor to stand here and welcome you on behalf of CV Austria. Very warm welcome to you, Ulla. Thank you for joining us. Lois, thank you for coming, and thank you for inviting us. And George, you three are today joining us, and you're a member of the CV Photo Award jury. That makes it very special to us, but also to all of you. I've already seen Michael Kempner, thank you. Your category is a winner from last year's photo award, and also Hans Lahodny should be somewhere over here, also a category winner. So thank you very much. That really means a lot to us. When we talk about CV, I would just want to highlight three more things. What is important to us? First, photography connects people, and we want to connect people via photography. The second thing that is important to us is storytelling, telling stories that matter in this world. And if you look around, there are so many stories that we already see here and stories that you will see later on. And the third point is preserving memories, preserving moments. That is so special to all of us. So, and now I take a shortcut. Last year, you told the people here, the people joining us, make CV pay. Yes, and you did it, we did it, because you need to know that for every single, that one is really important, because for every single submission, CV donates 10 euro cent for SOS Children's Villages worldwide. So this year we are able to donate 65,000 euro, and we from the Austrian organization, Monica, my co-worker, is with me today, and also some of my German colleagues with Anna and Cem over there. We give additional 10,000 euros, so in sum it's more than 75,000 euro we donate this time for SOS Children Villages worldwide. So, and last but not least, thank you so much. What makes me really proud, Lois, is thank you so much to you and your whole team for the close cooperation, for the perfect partnership. And that was exactly the reason why we decided to extend and to prolong our partnership. And we have recently decided to sign a 3-year contract for the upcoming years. So you can count on us, my dear Lois, and thank you very much for your perfect partnership, trust, and loyalty.
I have to answer to this because it's really unusual. We really believe that what we do is kind of setting new benchmarks in how to work together. How to work together. It's not by chance that 3 of the jury members are already here collected. It's George, it's Ulla, it's me, and I think it's in the mid-July or early July. We meet in Amsterdam to chat about these 665,000 images. So we sit a few nights with a lot of alcohol to do it, but we will get it done. And Anna and Cem will support us, of course. But this is really something unusual what we develop here. And I'm also very happy that our French partners also found the ways to the partnership with CV in France. And I saw the first exhibition there as well, which I, of course, appreciated that the French big brother follows us once. It's a good way. Thank you so much for doing that. Ulla.
I'm here not only to hold the cable, also to... The microphone will be back in a second. For the moment, my voice should be loud enough. It's the first time that CD has a Young People Award. So I think it's a really great chance for young photographers to be on exhibit. Because when I had my first exhibit as a photographer, my career got pushed. My images were not only on the hard drive anymore, they were seen by so many people. Like here on the festival, I think it's a great, great, great chance. So I believe there's one of the young talents here from Austria, Leon. Maybe we can call him up. Leon, where are you? Because for the Young People Award this year, Leon, please come up on stage. For the Young People Award this year, they can win a trip with me to Sicily to see the volcano exploding. So this is only one of the really cool prizes to win. So I would love to encourage not only the young people, but every photographer, also the professional ones, everyone. I think it's pretty cool to win the world's biggest photo competition, to keep it in mind for next year, May. Because then it's when the new competition will be open again, when we can put in our pictures again to win the world's biggest competition. Please feel free to go not only around here, but also to go on this side to explore more of the photographs. And hopefully we get to see more really cool pictures, not only this year in Amsterdam, but next year for 2027. For the next competition. So thank you very, very much for doing this and for giving a lot of people the opportunity to have their work seen and to get their career going.
So this was number 2 of 30. So we are in good shape. We are now heading to the city. We go this way to the city center where you find the Rathaus, and you see there's a big, tall statue, a Feiglichkeitssäule, I don't know how to translate this. Do you know this in English? A big monument, a Roman Catholic monument, and there we meet next.
So just follow Lois, and for the photographers who have their pictures here on the CV exhibit, please come on stage. We take a group picture together. See you soon.
Victoria is not a photographer. I hope you can live with this. Victoria is a communicator. Victoria works for the Austrian Bundesforste, as we learned already early on. But this is a very special project for which I would also like to have Mr. Christian Schurg on our side, but I have no clue where he is. He's somewhere probably talking and having a beer in the shadow. I hope he comes around because this project is very special and Victoria will tell you what it is about. There was a good reason to work together with young people because it's about their future. Victoria, please come with me, Victoria Kiskaya.
Thank you. So as Lois already said, I'm not a photographer. I cannot tell you much about photography. But I can tell you something about climate change and its effects on the forests in Austria, but also around the world. And the timing couldn't be more perfect after seeing all the previous pictures about the bushfires and the storms. Climate change had a massive effect on our forests in the past 20 years. In Austria, it's not so much the fires, but more storms and drought and heat. And we have realized that we cannot manage our forests anymore the way we did it the previous decades. So we have to change something about the way we manage our forests. And we started to promote certain species that are more resistant to the climate change and to establish more diverse forests with lots of different species that adjust to the new temperatures, the new surroundings. And that's what we call the forest of the future. So this is the forest that we build for the next 100 years. And to raise the awareness, especially in the future generations, we invited, together with Lois and Christian, some students from a local school in Baden to visit two of our quite special forests in the Viennese woods and to look at these forests from their own views, from their own perspectives and through their own camera lenses. One of the forests that you can see on this board is a forest that is being managed by us. So we promote here those species that are more resistant against climate change. And on the other side, there is another forest which is a natural reserve and where we don't do anything. We just leave it the way it is and see what comes out. And yeah, I think the pictures speak for themselves. They show not only the diversity of the forests, but also the diversity, the way that people look at them, and especially young people see these forests. And thank you again for you two who supported the students during this tour. What you can see on the other side of this board is a project that we have launched for our 100th anniversary. It's called Reality, and it is an augmented reality application where you can dive into a virtual forest through your camera lens and where you can interact with the species that live in this forest and where you can find out a lot of things about the forest of the future, but also anything else that you want to learn about the forest. So I would like to invite you to try it out. It's also available in English. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. Christian was managing the photography. He organized the schools and we went with them together to the forest to take these pictures, and Christian will give you a little statement about it. Christian.
Okay, once more, Lois and I have a meeting. We have ideas, a lot of ideas. We say 1 hour and 3 hours later we go from away. Lois and I said, young people must to learn photography, must to learn see. To see the light, to see the thing what we say to have to photograph it. And it is so great. We have, the name is the Leica Schulprojekt, Schulakademie. And we take it from 3 years now. And it's so lovely for me to spend my time, and I go with the young people in the forest, in the city, and so on, and I help them to see something, shadows, reflections, forest. And you see the pictures they made, and I'm very happy to spend my time for young people. Then I think we have it to do. Thank you, Lois, for this Möglichkeit. We can do this together. Thanks.
Thank you, Christian. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you, Christian. Thank you that we could this add on.
I think the challenge here was the seasonable plants. Each picture, we are standing under the Schiele, that is January. What is actually blossoming in January? So we searched for tree, fungus, and, Baumschwämme, Flechten, these kind of things. And they need to be in the right color for some Schiele. And you're searching for some sticks, and you need to talk to biologists from the Bundesforste to explain what you actually want to do. That was a tricky part. Schiele was easy. Sticks are easy for them. Yeah. I think we have many stations. I don't want to go further, but you will see each of the months have different plants for color and for season. Look at it, the Van Gogh that has, I think that's August. It's a flower that only blossoms in August. Yeah. And I pass on to Craig, who says some technical thing.
Something what? Technical. Well, let's see. Hello, my name's Craig Dillon, a British photographer, but I live in Vienna for many, many years. Yeah. This was a collaboration between nature and art, is how we like to think of it. Also a collaboration between ourselves. As you can imagine, there were many technical challenges along the way. What you're seeing are pretty much faithful and authentic reproductions of these iconic artworks. If you were to position the original side by side or over the top, you would see that in terms of composition and in many respects in terms of color, it's pretty much right. We got it absolutely right. How we did that remains a secret, the magic of photography. There's more to the images themselves. It's a multimedia project using augmented reality. If you download the app Artivive, you will see that when you point, and my son will demonstrate this, when you point your phone at each individual piece, then it springs to life showing a making of video, so a time-lapse video which shows how we made each individual piece. Thanks for listening. Enjoy the day.
But what we have in mind here is that Cornelia will speak to us again, like not the same like yesterday, but now she gives us an insight, what we hardly have, because usually the photographer would explain what he did, but now the perspective has turned. Cornelia will talk about her experience being photographed in this very special situation. So please come in to meet Cornelia. Please come in. So what we have in mind is really a change of perspective to talk about, because usually all stories we hear today and have heard the other days is about the photographer telling about what he had witnessed. But in this case, the object, the person visited, will tell about what it means to be photographed by someone like Brent Sturton. Please welcome with me the lady you know from yesterday, Mrs. Cornelia Spahn.
Thanks. It was one on a hot summer day last August when Brent Sturton and Rudy Lammerhuber visited me. My sister was present to lend her aid and moral support. My condition at that time was terrible. I had no energy left and suffered near constant pain. But Brent Sturton greeted me warmly and sat down with me without hesitation, talking in a calm and quiet tone about hope and faith. He gave me courage. From the very start of the shoot, he was filled with passion. He cleaned off the kitchen table only to jump up to get the perfect angle of me on the floor, lying on one of my paintings. This painting, depicting a sad, distraught woman, was made around 9 years ago. but I only now really understand its meaning fully. It's a woman in distress who suddenly disappeared from daily life. This illness took my life from me, my job, my friends, my joy in life. Still, I try not to lose my hope in life, and Brent Sturton met me with so much empathy and care that I could enjoy this photo shoot for a good while. He kept saying, "Beautiful, beautiful, stay like this," giving me for the first time in a while the feeling that I'm important, that I matter. As a sick person, I haven't received this volume of respect and attention in a long time. As we got started taking group photos of me and my sister, her hair got messed up. He shooed her off to the bathroom to get it fixed. "Your hair, beautiful, but fix it up." This made us both laugh. It was a deeply special and moving day, filled with profound moments, but also much joy. I'm deeply grateful to be able to share my life through this project and want to thank the We and Me Foundation, Gabriele Ströck and Gerhard Ströck, Rudi Anschuber and Lois Lammerhuber. I always believe this project will make an impact and will be another step in the right direction. Thank you.
Danke, Cornelia. Thank you, Cornelia. I think this is really a change of perspective to see what it means to be photographed. If we are photographed, it's kind of a normal thing, but you see how outstanding it is. It's almost a treatment for healing in a way, at least for a relief in a certain situation, of course, also for this cause to communicate the case and hopefully change politics in our country or in other countries to a slight bettering of the whole situation, which is as worse as you can imagine. It's really nothing there for these patients, no medication, no science, and of course no social care. It's a complete society disaster. And this is why the initiative of Gabriele and Gerhard Stöck is so important, because it comes from the civil society. Of course, you can make a point that they have three sons, but two of them are suffering since years. It's, by the way, a disease which exists since 1969 already, and it was acknowledged by the WHO at that time. The pandemic triggered it, and all alone in Austria. And it's really a situation in a nutshell, what we pictured in this project, that we have in a relative small country, 80,000 people affected. 80,000 out of 9 million. This is enormous, and I'm sure that there is a number which we don't know about. So this project is really important. It triggered a big television primetime show called Doc One, and the presenter, Hannu Setele, a hardcore journalist, and he appeared on screen and turned to the audience and said, "This is not a regular program." He was only his face in the. This is about something so serious and so sad that I ask you to take the time to watch and listen. And thank you that it did this now for Cornelia's words. Thank you very much. Alfred Seiland, you're next, please. First of all, I would like to ask one question. It's about be or not to be. Do you want to have dinner tonight? If the answer is yes, then we have to become a little faster. We're only 5.5 hours away for dinner time, but we have still 7 kilometers to go. So I do not want to threaten you, but I will be hungry at 8, believe me. So welcome to the world of Alfred Seiland. And Alfred Seiland has a wide range, and you will discover more of him today. But here, in this courtyard, you will see imagery which is the most awarded imagery for a campaign project ever in the history of photography. They did win so many accolades that they cannot even count it anymore. And it was about what, Mr. Alfred Seiland?
FAZ.
Thank you very much. Let's go. Welcome, Mr. Alfred Seiland.
Well, I will also try to explain a little bit in English. Maybe I have to come back to German in between. What you see here, I actually never intended. This was not my goal in photography. I worked in the United States beginning in the late 70s, end of the 80s, for my first book project, East Coast, West Coast. It was a completely independent project that I financed by myself and also with travels and sales to magazines and so on. But at that time, I did not want to have any connection to advertising photography. At that time, when my book was published, I also had my first museum exhibition in the United States at the Chicago Art Institute, and about this East Coast, West Coast project. But then I returned to Europe, and I part-time worked for the Frankfurter Allgemeine magazine, a magazine that was actually unparalleled in the world. Only maybe the New York Times magazine was a little similar. I also worked for a few assignments, but all the stories for them I did were independent stories. I gave them the idea of a subject, and they said, okay, go ahead and make. But after 5 years, actually exactly 30 years ago, the Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung intended to start with a completely new advertising campaign, an international campaign that was based mainly on photography. So a very unusual thing. I cannot remember on many assignments like this. Annie Leibovitz with American Express was one. She only had to make portraits, her job anyway. But I did never really think about doing something like this. But when a small agency in Eastern Germany, in Dresden, made the pitch for this campaign with Frankfurter Allgemeine magazine, they contacted me because they had picked out from the Frankfurter Allgemeine magazine about 2/3 of the pictures that was successful for this winning the campaign, the pitch for this campaign. And these pictures they took out from the Frankfurter Allgemeine magazine, and those were my pictures. And then they produced just somebody sitting in a studio with a newspaper, and they made a montage, and that was a way how they won the pitch for this campaign. Then they asked me if I would like to start with this campaign. I said, well, of course, at that time, I was a little naive because I thought, okay, if I'm traveling through the world for this campaign, I still can do my job as an artist, a photography artist on the side. But this never worked out. And I started, and it was planned that after 5 or 6 motifs, they changed the photographer and somebody else should take over. And actually, then I started, but 1 year after approximately, and I never heard about that before, the director of the agency, after a shooting, he took me to a bar and we had a drink, and he said to me, now I tell you something that you don't know, and very few people of the inner circle of the Frankfurter Allgemeine know. In the beginning, the Frankfurter Allgemeine was not quite sure if they start something that big on the market, if they shouldn't take a world-famous photographer for this campaign to start with. So they asked Helmut Newton if he would like to make this campaign, and he was fascinated and made his own concept, like a German general in the bath tube with a Frankfurter Allgemeine chip on the head, and so on. Pictures like this in black and white. Actually, and then the director of the agency told me, and you know what happened? We sat in this inner circle and spoke about it, to whom we should have to give this and how to start with it. And then he told me, and I was a little proud after that, he told me, we decided to give it to the more expensive photographer. And then he told me the story that Helmut Newton was so fascinated by this campaign that he made a cheap offer to get this campaign. And I made a regular offer, but in this case I was more expensive than Helmut Newton. So in the final, I don't want to make it too big. Finally, I started with the campaign, but the idea changing the photographer after 5 or 6 shootings was forgotten, and I worked 6 years on a roll on this. And I finally did, you see here, I think 50 images. I finally did 55 or 56. One was finished but never published because then the campaign was stopped. The story about that, I don't want to explain here, but it was very sad because in the beginning, if you do start with something like this, it's always the goal to get the most popular people to be part of the campaign. So the celebrities that are world famous should be in the campaign. But of course, all the celebrities wait what will happen in the beginning, who is taking part and what people are there and so on. So this was in the beginning. But after 5 or 6 shootings, it was not like this anymore that the Frankfurter Allgemeine or the agency had to ask the celebrities. They got a lot of offers of celebrities to be part of this campaign. But I always had the same problem. They came, and when I asked them what I would like to do with them, they told me, but you don't have to tell me that this guy did this. You're only asking me to do this. Yeah? So after 2 or 3 shootings, the Frankfurter Allgemeine said, we have to do making of. Because the people do not believe us, that these people are not arranged or something, whatever, or just put together in a digital way. And so they hired photographers to make making of, they hired film teams to make making of, and so on. And of course, for an agency, for a campaign like this, it is, especially for a newspaper that is world famous, the trust in how something like this is produced has very high standard. If they manipulate pictures like this, then all the people think also they manipulate the stories in the newspaper. So this was really very difficult. But then we had a very small team. Also, many photographs turned out to be very expensive just because how they were produced. But as I said before, I was thinking about doing my other things on the side. I worked at the minimum 3 weeks every month for this picture. Then I had to deliver the picture and I had to start with the next one. This was for 6 years on a roll, always the same thing. Because I did my own location checking and everything. We made all the things that were necessary and the assignments with the celebrities and so on. But of course we had help from the agency. And so, but basically we were a team of 3 persons, me, my assistant, and the art director from Scholz and Friends. Unfortunately, the art director who started with me, she got a burnout after 2 years and had to quit her job. So I had to continue with another art director from the agency. So actually, there have been so many things on a roll. Therefore, I cannot even start to talk in detail on the pictures. Maybe I pick out 1 or 2, because otherwise it would be an afternoon-filling lecture. Well, there are many, but I think from a technical but also understandable viewpoint, how things like this were, I would rather start with this one. We had to photograph Kurt Masur. At that time, he was the conductor of the New York Philharmonic Orchestra. And so the basic ideas for the campaign came mainly in a small way from the newspaper or from the agency, but it developed over the time of the weeks when we worked on it. One piece you see over there always one thing about this picture was, of course, we have to photograph the head of the Spiegel magazine in the Spiegelsaal from Versailles. Yeah. But this was very, very unusual in comparison to the other images. So here was everything clear, but this doesn't mean that it was easy, because the Spiegelsaal of Versailles is not a saal. So what you see here gives you the impression that this is a big room. But I have photographed this to 3 or 4 mirrors to get this impression of the room. So there are always many, many things in between. And we have been many times talking with Lois about this campaign, because all the people tell me, you have to make an interview with somebody and tell him all the stories behind the pictures, because nobody knows these stories anymore. Unfortunately, I think 90% of the people photographed here by me do not live anymore, so they are not alive anymore. It's also because I started with them or photographed them at already an age like Billy Wilder, over 90 years. But that's what they tell me, all because I have been on the point and on the place all the time to how the picture was growing and finally was shot. No, maybe it would be nice if she has the break in her career to make the photograph with her newborn kid. So we started to do this in Sylt on a famous restaurant there nearby on a kids' playground. Yeah, and we did this picture and finished this picture with her. But during my location check, I had found this landscape, what you see there now. And I thought this could be the more interesting picture. So, but then the agency decided, no, we do this because of the idea with the newborn kid. We do this picture on the playground. So therefore we did it. But after we finished this picture, I showed the Frankfurter Allgemeine my idea with the landscape. And at that time I had the idea because the steps going down in the beach area there simulates, or had simulated to me also the idea that for a high jumper, it is always important to go 5-10 centimeters higher, and then you have to go back again. So this was a nice combination for me here. And then the FAZ, no, we do it again. We do it in this style. And then this was the second shooting for this.
So 6 weeks on this. But we could spend the rest of the day here, but I have an offer. Mark Ludwig just approached me. He's from phototv.de, and he will record you tomorrow at the hotel. You can, or here, to tell all the stories on, well, you start to think about what to do, but he offered that he will record whatever you have to say, because I think we have to go for dinner. Thank you very much. So next in line will be Melina and Christian and Gregor. So I have the honor and the pleasure to introduce you to Madame Directrice Melina Leblay. She is in charge of La Gacilly. She is my partner. We have to deal about all little pennies and cents and find ways to live together and make this fly internationally, which has grown into a pretty big bird, I would say. Flies high. And I'm very proud of it, and thank you for being here, together with 2 gentlemen, father and son, Jörg, Christian and Gregor, and they are both representing the Lower Austrian photographers and have their own studio, and they are in charge of the photographers who are accompanying the school classes in Lower Austria with their work to create. This year's work, dear Melina, was about what?
Thank you, Lois. Thank you. I'm not only here on my behalf, I'm also here on the behalf of our founder, Jacques Rocher, and of course our president and the whole Legacy Photo Festival team. And I'm going to just start by congratulating our partner here in Austria. So Lois, of course, Silvia, Florence was here, and the whole team, because they did a great job. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about this project that is very dear to my heart, to be honest. This festival was born in France with a simple and powerful idea, which was to give young students a voice through photography. And I think it is a big success. We opened the edition in La Gacilly last weekend, and we opened this edition of the students' festival last Thursday, and actually more than 350 students were here in La Gacilly, and I'm really happy to know that you are expecting as much people next Tuesday, right? The goal is to sensibilize, but also to give them a voice to creativity, and this project is about sharing ideas, sharing hopes. And I think that it is a success when I see the pictures here. So I just want to thank all the students that are working on this project in France and in Austria. Thanking also all the photographers and obviously all the teachers and the partners that make this project possible. So thank you for being here and listening. And I'm going to let Christian talk about it a little bit. Thanks.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. All people in Austria know I speak short and loud. It's for me a great honor to organization this fantastic Schulprojekt for the 8th time. Lower Austrian photographers support the students in the realization of their imaginary photographs. The youngest of these is our son Gregor. We'll give him a minute to tell who he's doing.
Thank you all. As part of this project, students from the different schools explored a shared theme through photography, sport. Our role as photographer was to provide technical support, answering questions, offering tips, and helping out whenever needed. It was truly impressive to see how much creativity, dedication, and personal perspective the students brought to their work. The results were powerful, surprising, and often very personal, with viewpoints that even we as professionals might not have considered. It was exciting to be part of this process and see how much dedication the next generation already has. Thank you all.
This is the most simple announcement I can do. My dear friend, Mr. Christian Schirk.
Thank you, Lois. Lower Austria, the state with scenic beauties and magnificent culture treasures. I look forward every year to finding an exhibition's theme for this gallery with Lois for the Lower Austrian professional photographers. This year's theme was Culture Heritage, Monastery and Public Gardens in Lower Austria. We currently have 10 monasteries in Lower Austria that are still active. 8 of them you can see here. Kapuzinerkloster Wiener Neustadt, Stift Altenburg, Stift Göttweg, Stift Heiligenkreuz, Stift Melk, Stift Seitenstetten und Stift Zwettl. Behind me. Thank you.
Thank you for having the honor to be part of this beautiful festival last year, this year. Actually, it was a quite tricky assignment to do pictures of others in beautiful venues, which is like, I mean, you have beautiful parks, you have beautiful pictures. What can you do as a photographer, to do even more? So I was quite desperate at the beginning to start. And then I realized I was walking through the parks, observing people, watching, looking at photography. And this kind of reminded me of something I like in photography. This is one of the models I love. It's a triangle. It's the object we photograph. It's the photographer who photographs the object, and it's the viewer. And then I was in the parks and photographed the viewers watching, looking at photography, and me as the second photographer in a way. So it was kind of a strange idea about this assignment. And the other thing was I was also there in the parks when there was no natural lights. And I realized that at the end, you just see golden plates, golden photographs, because there is just a reflection of the artificial light. And I felt that this is something special. It's not about the photography being exhibited anymore. It's maybe raising more questions about the question of what is photography. And photographs to be exhibited to become golden was quite beautiful to me. Thank you. That's it.
Only 5 minutes. And 5 minutes, after 5 minutes, you will meet Mrs. Bobby Lockyer. Here she is.
And that's loud. So all four of the, I guess you could call them tribes, or we call them nations, or our mobs. All four of those are along the ocean, and that means that I am a saltwater woman. And as a saltwater woman, it is my role and my responsibility to ensure that our oceans are clean and protected, including the sea life and everything along the coast. And so a lot of my photography explores that, explores the connection of Aboriginal people to the saltwater, and explores the themes of conservation. So I'm also an artist, and I paint, and I also do fashion design, and I create garments, which I've had showcased at New York Fashion Week and Paris Fashion Week. And I like to combine all my creative endeavors. So I like to combine my photography, combine my art, and combine my fashion. So in some of my photography that you see over on that far wall over there, I have taken portraits of children and elders, and then I've painted over them with the stories of the saltwater people. Another theme that I really like to explore, and a project that I started, is the Birthing on Country project. With this, I am capturing Indigenous mothers, or Indigenous women, and children and babies, and showcasing the beauty of our culture and the beauty of what birthing on country means, and creating awareness for it. So birthing on country is a practice for Indigenous people where they can involve their culture and their traditions into their birth, which is often not allowed in the Western world. And it is often when these traditions are kept away from Indigenous people, or when we're sent away to other cities to give birth, it results in far worse outcomes, such as stillbirth, miscarriage, or even maternal mortality. So I started this project to capture and showcase what it means for Indigenous people and how important it is for them to be able to birth on country. Birthing on country doesn't always mean, birthing outside under a tree or in a Mia structure, which is one that you will see on one of the photos on this wall. It also means birthing in a hospital or a home birth or with a midwife, but it's involving and embedding those cultures and practices into the birthing space. Something as small as having your sisters, your mother and your grandmother present at the birth, which a lot of hospitals will say, you can only choose one support person, and they restrict that. A lot of Indigenous women that live in remote communities are often sent away to the city to give birth, and they're sent away alone for up to 6 weeks, without their husband, without their mother, without their family, and without support. And this is very detrimental to them. So yeah, with my photography, I want to spread awareness of what birthing on country means. And I also am working with the Southern Cross University in Australia. They're creating a mini documentary on birthing on country, as well as a book series showcasing some of my photography. And then another theme that I also explore is representation. So growing up as an Aboriginal child, I never saw anyone like me on the cover of a magazine or anyone like me in TV, in media, unless it was portrayed negatively. There was always on the news, Aboriginal person has done this or done that, and it was always a negative stereotype. And so I wanted to represent, especially for young girls like me when I was a kid, to show them if they can see it, they can be it. So I became the change that I wanted to see, and I put these Indigenous people onto covers of magazines, into mainstream media, and showcasing the beauty of Aboriginal culture. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. You're fantastic. I promise if I'm reborn and if I have hair again, I do it your style. By the way, may I tell you a little secret about your tattoos? Would you explain them, how it's meant? Because I really love it.
Okay.
I can hold it.
Okay. So this tattoo here, my husband and I both have as matching tattoos. And so when we put our hands together, well, I can't do it, but like that, they join together. And that was our honeymoon present to each other. And it is a design that I designed myself, and it shows us as the saltwater lines connecting, because my husband is also a saltwater man, but he is from the East Coast. And so we have the saltwater from the West Coast and the East Coast coming together. And then on each hand, we have these symbols here are symbols of people sitting around a meeting place. And so we've put myself, my husband, and our 4 boys. And then I've also got the Geraldton wax flower and the wattle flower, which means hope, love, and joy.
Thank you. We will have another Bobby stop a little later on because she painted with scholars for our painting school a very beautiful and inviting photo point, which we probably will use quite a bit altogether.
So it joins like that.
Thank you very much, dear Bobby. So next in line is, where did we go first? Vivian, Anna first, and then we, yeah, it doesn't matter. I think in the walking directions may be better. Vivian Dyer, and then Agence France-Presse, and then Anissa Halker, if you don't mind. Vivian, are you around? Okay, here you are. Maybe go to your... And then I'll give you the mic for the full. My dear friends, there is Anissa Halker. She speaks some German, I guess. I know she does. She's of Czech origin, but she's pure Australian. She has relatives in Vienna, and that qualifies her to be an artist. Maybe. No, I'm joking. But she confronts us with a work which is really challenging for our eyes because it's about dioramas. And when I was young and went the first time to the Museum of Natural History in particularly, there have been dioramas all over the place. And they did fall out of time in the meantime and disappear. Basically, you remember these boxes where there have been wood and animals and birds and whatever inside, and some life as taxidermy, but it mimics real life in a good way and made people, visitors, understand what it is about. But what Anissa Halker does is the revival of this. So please welcome this wonderful woman of revivaling our memories of the world. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's really wonderful to be here and to see these works situated in this amazing garden. It's such a different landscape to the Australian landscape. And for some of the works of Matthew Abbott and Adam Ferguson, there's a striking contrast, I think. Mine are constructed worlds, but based on real documentation of a habitat. They come from dioramas, as Lois said, and all of these dioramas have sadly disappeared. They've become extinct. These all come from Australian museums, from Sydney and also from Tasmania and from Melbourne. And they had the opportunity to work with either the historical record, so the dioramas had disappeared in the 50s, I think, and it was just this record, usually photographed by the museum staff, and they were exquisite images in themselves. Sometimes they were in black and white, and I managed to have access to these. I first encountered dioramas in the Natural History Museum in New York in 1981 when I made my first road trip across America, and I'd left art school, and I'd actually heard about the American Natural History Museum from the writer or the character Holden Caulfield, who was from Catcher in the Rye, and he would go to the museum. He was his life was unraveling a little bit, and he would find great security and certainty in the fact that nothing ever changed in these museums, that everything would remain the same. And I did find that there was this extraordinary kind of portal into a place and a time that had really disappeared. So my practice has been collage photomontage, and when digital imaging became possible, I used that to make these interventions into these landscapes. And through research and through working with naturalists and looking at that history, I was able to weave kind of different stories into these environments. For example, this is Macquarie Island, which is down it's actually belongs to Tasmania, I think, and it's a natural heritage site, but it had awful impact from humans coming onto that into that landscape. There were rabbits introduced at one point, and they've had a real success in revitalizing, regenerating that landscape, making sure that there's a very small footprint. And this place is largely just for it's not really tourism. It's largely for people who are interested in natural history and in ecology, and there is a lot of work being done there. Thank you. My kind of interventions, as I said, like sometimes borrow from photographers that are working in the field. The first image that you see at the beginning of bats hanging from a tree was recording an area along the Nepean River in New South Wales. And a few years ago, the temperatures rose to 42 degrees and the bats' brains just boiled. They couldn't kind of get to water and they were just dropping from trees and whatever their habitat was. And a photographer had been recording some of this devastation and I got to work with their images. I also like to acknowledge those people that have kind of really worked hard to raise awareness around these environments. But there's a kind of part fantasy in these works too, partly because they are constructed, they're painted backdrops, they're constructed foregrounds, they use taxidermy animals that have been collected from those actual environments. This one actually is my only sort of AI slightly produced work of the figures removing these animals from display. It's called Rising Tide at Lockhart Gorge. And I know that the museum staff wear these suits to make sure that they're not leaving any, I don't know if their skin around or hair, or I'm not sure why they have to be so protected. But once I sort of had witnessed that way of working, I then kind of found myself having to do all the hand movements, put gloves on and try to have them match the kind of gestures and so on of the preparators. My later work, which is, well, it's a mix up the top there, but last night you saw the woman with the large fish in the aquarium. And she was somebody who worked in the museum at the time. She was brought in to paint that fish so it could go on display in New Zealand. But she was photographed by the museum staff there. And so I had access to her photograph and I've superimposed her into an aquarium in Sydney. And it's an aquarium that I'd photographed in a previous body of work. But they're doing a lot of very good restoration work with seagrasses and also growing cauliflower corals, which provide habitat for sea dragons. So I wanted to try and bring a more kind of positive sense to things that actually are happening with renewables in these environments and that animals can actually live in harmony with large wind turbines. And I don't know if that scale is actually right. And George might be able to say, having worked with them, but I suppose they are different sizes in different places. There's ones. Yeah, not 2 swimming pools long. Some of the works have, as I said, I worked with black and white photographs. They were scanned, sometimes printed in the old sort of analog way, and then I would hand color them, and then they would be merged with the how did it work? Yeah, with the original black and white. So the painted texture would disappear. This was an original color one, so was that one, but the first one, which is a lyrebird, and which is from a national park close to Sydney, which I visited and in fact encountered some lyrebirds when I was down there, introduced some of the housing that kind of aligns this valley and just that encroachment. While they're quite protective of this because it is a national park, you still have a sense of this urban. And I think you've probably heard about lyrebirds being able to copy all sorts of sounds. And one of them is, they can do poker machines, but they can also do saws and what are the other sort of suburban sounds of lawnmowers. So I kind of like that play as well of like you see these suburban houses. We should make that about the end, but there are sort of 3 cubes up there with panels on each side, and I think most of them are still from Australian dioramas. There might be a couple that have crept in from elsewhere, but it's been an ongoing project. I don't feel like I've quite finished with them, but one of the shifts that happened was to look at the people that work on the dioramas originally. So it's this reviving them or bringing them back to life. And Ethel is probably one of the examples of that and these. But it was interesting to see this photographic record in the museums and how that played out. And in a way, that's all that has survived. So, yeah, I'm loving the way they're situated here, and it's a real pleasure to kind of also have that kind of scale of works, and particularly those very large ones over there. But probably that's it. And thank you very much for your attention.
Let's the story begin. Madame Vivian Dyer. So this is something special because she's kind of integrated in the Australian group of photographers, but she's not a real Australian. You know, she looks different like Bobby, as you can see, obviously, but she has a lot to do with the Australian country. She did a big reportage, a documentary about the interior and about this really very unique way of life. A reason to see Australia, but here we have someone who was there and did the job for us and will tell us. Please welcome Madame Vivian Dyer.
Thank you, Lois. Thank you. Hi, everyone, and thank you to be here with the hit. So my name is Vivian Dyer. I'm a French photographer. I spent 2 years in Australia. My idea was to work in the outback and trying to give you a glimpse of what it's like to live in the outback. Only 10% of the population live there. And I was fascinated by different stories. So that's why through my work, you will see images about farmers, about boxers, about unbelievable first women over there, and the kids as well. I will make a very short speech because I'm not comfortable to rush and to explain my work in front of a crowd when I don't have time. But I will invite you to, if you want, we can have private talk tomorrow or later on. Just feel free to come and see me, and we can go through the exhibition and I will give you more explanation about it. This project for me is it's really a glimpse. Yeah? Okay. It's just a glimpse. And I wish yeah? Okay, thank you. The way I work as a documentary photography is I like to work on long-term projects. So I really hope that next year I will pursue my work, especially with the boxer. So hopefully Michael is going again on the field and take the boxing tent over there. And I would like to join him and to pursue the same project. And it makes the story more deeper, and that's it. Sorry, I don't know what to say. Just come to me if you want, and we can talk about my work, you know, later on. No, thank you. Thank you. Bye. Just one more thing. I still have few copy of my book here. And, so if you're interested, I have few copy at the hotel, so feel free to ask me. Thank you.
Alles klar, Herr Kommissar. By the way, Cyril is a big man in France. For those who don't know much about him, he is guiding public opinion along for photography in a magazine called Figaro magazine, which is one of the leading sources to explain the world. He works with the best of the best, and they touch stories hardly any other magazine I know really ready to go for. He has a handful of photographers he really trusts and sends them to topics which are really hard to document. Some of them quite risky, but nevertheless, they try to really keep us informed in the best possible way and tell us what it is about in the world. But besides this, he's a very good friend of Jacques Rocher. He founded this festival 22 years ago in La Gacilly. He's one of the three sons of Yves Rocher. And the story about how this company, this world-renowned company came about is an exciting one. It's about entrepreneurship. It's about against all odds. It's really entertaining in the best possible way. He's not here, so he will send it. He will send it. And, well, I know that they have conspiracy trips. They go each summer to a secret location on a very important Italian Mediterranean island and talk privately again, about the next year's topics, in part at least. Well, to make a long story short, I was just talking to drag a little bit more film mystery. My God, I'm not a tour guide. I mean, I pay your flight from Atlanta to come here. Joking. Phil, it's important. It's about Agence France-Presse, and you will learn about it. And just to finish up about the biography of Cyril, he is really the commissaire, as they call it in France, of the Exposition de la Photographie in La Gacilly. Is it correctly pronounced, commissaire de la photographie? No.
Yes, if you want. Commissar or maybe curator, it's better, no? No, so thank you so much. It's great because this issue here is Australia and we have a great weather. Last week we were for the opening in La Gacilly, Britain, in Brittany. It was the issue about Great Britain photography and we had a British weather. So it's nice to be there now. Yes, thank you. Yes, I'm the curator of, I will be very brief because, you know, I'm not the photographer for it. I'm just here for offerings, the pictures for the visitors. And that's the main important thing that we try to do, like Lois, like Silvia, like Florence. Thank you so much. Because our goal is to put the visitor inside the country in open air to be free of seeing all the pictures. So it's the 5th consecutive year that we are partnering with Agence France-Presse, AFP. Maybe you know this agency is one of the main news press agency in the world for text and for pictures. And they have around, for the staff photographer, they have around 450 photographers everywhere in the world for covering news. I know that at these times they have some people photographers covering news, what happens in Israel, in Iran, because the last night continued the battle. It was such a crazy, and all these photographers work in the countries for revealing the truth and revealing what happens in the world. So here it's the idea was to show some the work of some photographers from Australia and Oceania. It means like Anneke de Groot or Thorsten Blackwood. And the idea was to say 60,000 years after the settlement on this continent island, Australia, the indigenous peoples continue to be marginalized on their own lands. That's totally crazy. There was a referendum maybe 2 years ago, just asking for Australian people that if the Aborigines could have a voice, just a voice in the parliament, not to be able to have the decisions for making laws, but just a voice, just to advise what happened in the politics. And in this referendum, Australians decided to say no, they can't. And so today, these citizens continue to be second-class citizens in their own countries. They represent around 3.5% of the population, but they continue to be unemployed, to have nothing except their dignity. And there is one picture for me interesting. It's this one that you see there from Anneke de Groot with this little boy and with this so sad face in camp where they continue to be to live there. So it was just to show the reality sometimes of these people. When we speak about Australia, sometimes for us it's so exotic, it's so nice, it's so big, it's so crazy. You have surf, music and everything. But not only. That's all. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, next to me stands a man named Matthew Abbott. He earned a certain fame by winning World Press Photo Award with the image on the wall. But the circumstances why he could do this image are more on the tragic side. It was something what I briefly mentioned yesterday in the evening, that last year it was the first year that bushfires did take more land than agriculture. And agriculture is eating up a lot of land per year, but this last year it was the first time that these bushfires took a lot of big toll. Nevertheless, we have to think about bushfires in a different way, because after burn, it's not dead country. It looks dead, but it's kind of the ashes are fertilizing the ground. So I've seen, in particular in America, many areas which have been burned down, and 10 years later, they are woods again. But in this particular situation, it was very special because the Australians, the modern-day Australians, thought they are capable to kill the fire. And then they had to learn about resilience by some of the natives. This is what I heard about. But you will deepen the story.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for that introduction.
Please welcome Mr. Matthew Abbott.
That's okay. Thank you. Well, yeah, thanks very much for having us. It's been a great festival. Yeah, really appreciate everything you've done and to make this happen. Thanks everybody for being here today. I'll be quick because it's really hot. Yeah, so there's some truth to what you're saying. I can get into a little bit about, I guess, the First Nations, experience with fire. But yeah, what we are experiencing in Australia in terms of sort of fire activity is, we saw, in 2019 and 20 these catastrophic bushfires that were anything but natural. There's too long to go into it right now as to the reasons why we experience some of these more extreme situations. But during this period of time, it was my role as a photojournalist to sort of capture this sort of catastrophe in real time. These fires were burning for several months, and it was it was a real sort of slog. It was week after week of fires, and it was very important to record this time to be able to show the world and Australians the scale of what was happening. Yes. And then after this period of time, I was approached by National Geographic to do a story on the subject of fire in Australia, which was quite challenging actually, because once these fires had come through, of course it's a time of rejuvenation, recovery, and there's going to be a long period of time before we see that kind of extreme fires in Australia. So I had a long think about it, but the topic that really stood out to me was to document the experience that First Nations Aboriginal people in Australia have with fire. It's a very unique relationship with fire. Bobby was saying before, there's 500 nations around the country. So I can't speak for all those nations and their relationship, but certainly in Northern Australia, in an area called Arnhem Land, there's an incredible close relationship with fire there. And they are actually, for thousands of years, they've been using fire. It might sound contradictory, but they use fire to burn the land in a particular way. It's called cool burning. And what that means is by burning at a particular time when there's grass is greener, there's more moisture around, there's less intense weather patterns, they're able to create like a mosaic in the landscape. And this actually helps prevent larger, more destructive wildfires from moving through these areas that produce much more carbon, or release much more carbon into the atmosphere. And so it was a really incredible story, because by these groups that are working with fire there, they're actually able to prevent the release of this carbon, to sell those carbon credits to onwards, and then provide for their communities. So they're able to fund schools, their own education, the building of it's an incredible success story in the way that they've been managing their land. So that's something that I was really happy to do, and I was grateful for the experience, the chance to do it with National Geographic. That allowed me to make several trips in the year to show the seasons and this whole process from beginning to end. That's probably it, I think. But yeah, sure. If you've got any questions, just come and have a chat. Always happy to talk about the work. And yeah, thanks again for being here.
Don't worry, I will be very, very brief, okay? So, all the pictures that you see there have been taken by an American photographer, Mitch Dabrovner. He's not a photographer, he's a crazy guy, a completely crazy guy, because he's a tornado chaser, So, he's first a scientist, but photography is his passion. And he's a crazy guy because, he goes where you don't want at all to go. When he see a tornado like that, he say, wow, that's crazy. It's fantastic. I go there because I want to be in the eye of the storm. That's his work. And what is interesting, why we wanted to show that, is because of the pictures he makes, black and white. Great admirer of Ansel Adams, that you know him for his landscapes and this American photographer. And he's in the same spirit for the color, with the asperity of the black and white that he has, is more gray than black and white. And what is interesting too is that all these conditions that you see, these terrific weather conditions, are happening more and more and more because of the climate change. And you see that, when you hear the news and when you go around Florida and everywhere in the United States and in other countries, in India, in the suburbs, everywhere in the world, this effect of the climate change are more and more, stronger and stronger. And so it was crazy. All the picture that you can see, have a specific name, and it's the name of this climatic change. So thank you so much.
His birthday, he phoned me up and said, Lois, I know I promised to come, but I had a night of thinking and reflecting and made a decision. I will try to go much lesser to venues, to exhibitions, openings, and give speeches. I would like to start to protect myself. And this is why, it's beautiful in the shadow here. And Dimitri Beck is very familiar with his work, and there's a good reason why he's familiar with it, and he will tell us about it. Please welcome Mr. Dimitri Beck from the Polka magazine in Paris.
Thank you, Lois. Yes, I always go with my fans, everywhere, especially in Baden. Thank you very much. Yes, I will try to be short and not too long, because also this photography needs some explanation to be able to appreciate it even more and better. As Lois said, we are working since a while with Joel MEYEROWITZ. We published him in the magazine, but also we representing him at the gallery. And Joel turned 87 years old, recently. And he started photography in the 60s. He was a young art director. He's from Bronx in New York. And in 1962, he went downstairs, the building where he was working. And then suddenly he saw a guy with a camera and jumping, going, dancing with the models and everything. And he said, wow, we can do that with photography. My God. Then straight, he went up and say, I quit my job. This is what I want to do is photography. And he had no camera. He knew nothing about photography. Then his boss was quite fair enough. He said, okay, at least take this camera to start your career. Then he went to photography. He started to work in black and white. That was the trend by that time. Everything was fashion to take photography in black and white. But late in the 60s, he decided to move to color. And color was usually used for advertisement and some special use, but not for street photography and not for reportage. Look, he wanted to change the rules, let's say, and he's one of his pioneers of color photography, like William Eggleston, for example. Then very quickly, he gets obsessed by color photography. And because he said, because I see the life and everything into colors. And then he moved so much that he changed cameras. Then he bought a View camera by 10 I think it was in 1976. And definitely it was the last move he did, and stay and stick with colors. As you can see here is photography that from the beginning there till towards all this movement, and you will see this halfway. It's not reportage at all. It's very much contemplative photography. And it doesn't want to tell the story of everything. What is very important is the way the viewer interact and feel and tell the rest of the story. Is really suggesting something is happening. It doesn't want to tell everything and to be understood clearly in the picture. That's very important for him. There is one series of, everything is very contemplative, but you will see some pictures about 9/11 there, because he was there at ground zero. And what happened when it happened, he wanted to go in to see and take pictures. And one policewoman told him, no access, no accreditation. This is a crime scene. No way for you to take pictures. He said, no, it's not possible. I need to photograph that and to keep a memory of that moment. And then what he did, he managed to go around and to get a special access. And during 9 months, he's probably the only one who got this access during 9 months, covering all the changes and getting cleaned and working in that place to see the changes. And he did an amazing body of work that was put together into a book called The Aftermath. You will see here, and to make it short, for him, life is in color. And I would say in his eyes and with his camera, you can see it's a visual melody. And sometimes maybe it's a symphony, depending on the moments. One of I think it was his first color book, his first book even, came out in 1979. And it was Cape Light, about Cape Cod in the US. And you could see that this kind of photography I was talking about very contemplative. And I took some notes to find some of his quotes, because unfortunately he couldn't make it here. Then he said, colorful chromatic palette that captures emotions like a magic sponge. I wanted the completeness of my emotions, my qualities of reaction, and only color could provide it. I had this feeling that color had more to say than black and white. Photography is about describing things. Then color describes more things. I wanted to be an intellectual advocate for color. And last quote, America is an incredible world of characters, settings, scenes. I learned to trust that the world itself is much more inventive and imaginative than I am. Thank you very much.
So Louisa Jones. Louisa Jones is a young but very talented American photographer. She's born in 1992, so she's 35 only. And the series here is called In the Vast Wild West. So we are in Montana. The Montana is known as the Big Sky Country, iconic state of the American West, often associated with the American pioneer spirit, a symbol of freedom and adventure. This is also the place where the photographer Louise Jones lives. She lives in the heart of the countryside. She shows here in these photographs the efforts to restore the bison population on the northern plains and in the Yellowstone ecosystem too. So from the North Wyoming through Idaho to southern Montana, you can see this countryside life with the bison, but also with wolves and grizzly bears, the ranching communities and so on, how they try to live together in a sustainable management of these lands to preserve the wildlife. In another hand, the recovery of bison is crucial to preserve the culture of the American tribes who have had a special relationship with animals for over 10,000 years. Then you can see her photographs as a nod to the Wild West and its way of life. Thank you.
So, before we have some sausage, we are going to listen to Andrea Holzer, the heart and soul of Magnum Paris, the one who represents basically all the great photographers in the world. And this is one which was a surprise for me because I did simply not know about him. And I did not know that TRENT PARKE is a Magnum member. So for me, this was a discovery, a big discovery, and I like a lot what he does and also the philosophy behind. So please welcome Madame Holzer.
Merci, monsieur. So I am your last obstacle between you and your hot dog, okay? So I'll make this really short, and the sausages also need 5 minutes, so he knows that we're coming. TRENT PARKE is the only Australian member that we have in Magnum. Inside the circle, you see his work Minutes to Midnight, and that was the work with which he was actually accepted as a member at Magnum. And as Lois said, he's a photographer who is only working in Australia, doesn't have many exhibitions in Europe, but you might know him because he published quite a few books with Steidl, and every time he publishes a book, it's kind of a manifesto, and the books sell out quite fast. So Minutes to Midnight is the story of him and his wife Narelle Autio, whose work is also present in the festival. They traveled for 2 years, 90,000 kilometers through Australia. And with that work, he created this kind of fiction, which he then called Minutes to Midnight. Out on the outer circle, you have his color work. He's working both color and black and white. So you have the series coming soon. That's the one that is actually announcing the exhibition, but you also have Welcome to Nowhere, for example. And he works with his color work exactly the same way than he does with his black and white. He documents Australia, and then he creates actually his own pictures, stories. At the end of 2023, his book Monument came out. Maybe you saw it. It's about Sydney. It's also black and white. It's quite interesting with Trent. He's always going very dark or very bright. He has this scope. The darkness and the light. Lois showed the map of Australia yesterday. You have these really dark places, and then you have the light places. So those are actually the 2 points that he's touching. For me, every time he brings out a new book or a new story, I have the feeling I enter a new brain space in Trent's imagination, because what he does with his pictures is actually create a kind of a imaginary fiction with his documentary work.
We had a break in the middle of a couple because Andrea before told you about Narelle Autio, who is the wife of TRENT PARKE. So this exhibition is called The Call of Ocean. She is Australian and she's born in 1969. So as you know, Australia is surrounded by 3 of the 5 world's oceans: the Indian Ocean, the Southern Ocean, and the Pacific. And here she shows a series called Coastal Drillers here. And you can see how she captures instants in the water. It's like a poetic and sensory study of human bodies moving in the water, like in an interactive dance with the water. Then her photographs highlight that feeling when swimming in the ocean. They illustrate our natural attraction to water, always juxtaposed with the profound vulnerability of humans in this element. She explained, I collect moments. Underwater, I wait for the jumpers to disturb the stillness. I never know what I'm going to get, the position of the bodies, the play of the light, the vibes of the oceans. Everything is always so different. She was awarded for this series, a first prize at the World Press Photo and the Leica Oscar Barnack prize in 2002. And then, if you see the second series just behind, it shows photographs she has collected during her travels across Australia along dusty roads that seems to go nowhere in particularly, but on the road that always lead back to the sea. This is Australia. And the title of the series is To the Sea. Thank you.
It's called the Sweetwater Pope. That means he's the most experienced diver in waters without a sea. There are lakes in his life, but the rivers in his life, but not a sea. And what you see on the pond is his work. And he's in business since how many years, Herbert?
More than 50 years.
More than 50 years. He's doing photography in the waters of mostly Europe, I guess?
Mostly Europe and around the world.
Okay. Mostly Europe and around the world. So, Herbert, please tell us about your work.
It is so. My passion is freshwater photography. It's a very, very difficult medium because freshwater is not always clear. The fish are shy and cautious, and you cannot go everyone into the lakes because natural, forbidden, and so on. I can say freshwater photography occupies a special position in underwater photography. This is due to the medium which cannot be compared to marine photography. Freshwater photography is a world of its own when you consider the subjects and the environment. The fish are not numerous, as in the sea. The subjects are not as exposed. Visibility is usually poor. The water is cold, and the ambient light usually decreases significantly after just a few meters of water depth. This is not ideal conditions for beaches underwater photography, especially since most fish are extremely shy and cautious. When live in flowing water, special precautions are also required when diving. You can hear the problems. Before you go into freshwater, you must learn diving. This is, some people has a problem. They are shy, angry, and so on. And you need expensive equipment. In cold water, you need a dry suit. You are dry inside, but you need a lot of weight before you come up and down. And you have your tank and so on. It is also expensive. We can do that. No? And I'm diving since more than 50 years in freshwater. More than 50 years, because I'm 80 years. It is okay, I'm fit. It is okay, I'm fit. No? In the 1970s, there was a freshwater photography competition in German-speaking countries that only allowed black and white images. Why? At the time, it was believed that this was a right decision because there are no attractive colors in freshwater. Fortunately, we know better today. You can see that from my pictures. We have color in freshwater, but not so in the sea like tropical sea. There's more. But in freshwater, you have colors. It is so. And I'm also diving in mountain lakes and in springs. Springs are very clear. You have visibility nearly 40, 50 meters. It's very extremely, but it's cold. I say you a number. It's 4, 6, or 8 degrees. It's not for swimming. You need a dry suit. I can show you one of this picture. Please look. This is a diver with a Eugen. Eugen is one of the greatest salmon. He can get 150 meters. Look, the diver is okay. Thank you. I forgot my own. The diver is 2 meters with fins. And look to the fish. This is a freshwater fish, but very, very shy. This is the only one picture in the world, a Eugen with a diver. The only one picture in the world. Nobody has got this after me. But I was not 3 or 4 times in the water, more than 10 years. Then I had the pictures. Interesting. And you see, I will look. This one. This is a gold carp. On the other side, we have also a carp in Germany and Austria, and also in Switzerland water. We have Fremdfisch. They came from over there. This is global world, and not all the fish do you find in our lakes. The fishermen are friendly to him because it's danger. It's danger also. Here you have a sturgeon. Sturgeon came out of Germany from private persons. They have it in a in a pond at home in the garden, and the fish got greater and greater. And said, what can I do with it? I put it in the next lake. Yeah, it is forbidden, but all what is forbidden is interesting. It is so. It is so. No? What you must have with your good freshwater photography? You need a good camera, and not a smartphone. Good camera, not a smartphone. Also, compact camera, not ideal. You need a compact system camera. You need a lot of lenses. Underwater, we have three main lenses. It is a macro, it is a super wide, and a fisheye. On land, fisheye is an exotic. On the water, it is normal because we have dirty water, we have bad visibility, we must go close, and we need a big angel, so we need the fish and the landscapes. This is it. And if you take photos with fisheye lens, you need a special camera with a big dome port. This is also not cheap. It's all expensive. If you want to do that, please go to your bank. It is so. No? You see here the result of maybe 20, 25, 20, 30 years. It is not easy. And you must learn dive. Please do that. It is very interesting underwater. And take a camera and so on. My special underwater housing. It is so. Underwater housing is very interesting. My special underwater housing is SeaChem. It's an Austrian factory near Graz in Volksberg. And underwater, we must have flashes. We need to do pictures with flashes. And the flash must also waterproof and so on. No? It is all not easy. It is all not easy. And you need many exercises before you take pictures. It is so. Thank you.
Thank you, Herbert. Underwater housing was the keyword, and Harald Hordosch is the producer of the best underwater housing in the world. You remember last year David Dubillet used it. He comes to his place quite frequently, and here's the man. He does this. He's responsible for the photographs, so to speak.
And it's stunning to stay here and to see all these very nice floating pictures. The pictures belong to this environment. They belong to the water, and this is so nice to see. Herbert is SeaChem's longest ambassador. SeaChem is existing since 35 years, and he was the person who made it happen that SeaChem is SeaChem. Without Herbert, it would never be, my company would never exist. And for this, I thank Herbert really a lot. As I already said, as Lois already said, we are from Austria. Not so many companies doing underwater housings are coming out from Austria. So we are very proud. Hans Haas came out from Austria. So I'm following, yes. And now I will make it very short. I give back the microphone to Lois, and we will follow up the path to the next wonderful pictures.
Thank you very much, Harald. The next is just around the corner. Mr. Adam Ferguson. Mr. Adam Ferguson is the Australian Richard Avedon, in a way. Of course, he's unique, but he's following Mr. Avedon in one certain aspects. Richard Avedon has become an enormous fame as a fashion photographer, and at a certain age, he started to spend his summers in the west of the U.S., in the Middle West, and started a project to show what he thought is the real life in America. And Adam, when he saw these images, decided this is what Australia needs. I hope I did tell it correctly. Adam, please welcome Mr. Adam Ferguson.
Thank you, everybody, for persevering and still being here. Firstly, I'd just like to start, and I think Unless you've been to Australia, a lot of people probably aren't aware of this, but something that we do when we speak formally and talk about work that's made on country is to acknowledge the country where that work is made. So I'd like to do that today. The work that I made, Big Sky, is made across lots of different Indigenous countries in Australia. So I'd like to acknowledge elders past and present, the old people, and pay my respects for the stories that have helped inform my work. I'd also like to acknowledge the Indigenous people here, which I think is just Bobby, and say always was, always will be. My work, Big Sky, is something I started about 10 years ago, and it was really a response to an outdated international perception of Australia. I'd lived overseas for a long time, and I'd seen a lot of tropes, especially living in America. Talked about snakes and Crocodile Dundee, and I really wanted to make a body of work which disputed that and kind of make an updated narrative about the outback. The work very much looks at global trends in rural areas, and that's mechanization and centralization and climate change. And I never set out to make a body of work about climate change, but for the first 7 years of my project, I photographed in extreme drought, and then towards the end, I was photographing in fire and flood. So the work, even though I set out to make a cultural story about Australia, very much became a story about climate change and extreme weather. The work really, beyond that, is about human relationship to land. I spent the first few years of my life in a small farming town where my mother was from, and her grandparents worked on a wheat and sheep farm. So I very much had a post-colonial Anglo-settler perception of Australia and my country. And I wanted to go back and revisit that and make a story that kind of reflected that, but then also kind of went beyond that. The original concept was to make my version of Avedons in the American West as a portrait project and work in color. And as I started to work on that, I realized that the land and the landscape was very integral to the story and the people that I was working with. So I started to go beyond that and make environmental portraits of people in their spaces and evolve from that into, in a sense, the American road trip where I traveled around and photographed all over the country. Yeah, so it's a project that I worked on for 10 years, and I resolved that body of work last year in a book called Big Sky. And yeah, that's about it. Thanks for listening.
Several contexts on this story. The first encounter we had, I think it's 5 years ago, when you came and we discussed the possibility of creating a book about it, which we didn't come to it together. We stayed open and the work went on. And 2 years ago, we had a project on that and discussed it. In an interview, I think Phil Mystery interviewed you, if I remember correctly. And now, at the end, the process is here and it's all the way down, all the south wall. I think it's close to 100 images. It's quite, how many exactly? 85, but it's close to 100. A big amount of work. And it's really eye-opening work. And of course, as I mentioned yesterday, is a work which tries to answer the question if our planet can feed 10 billion. And this is almost a surreal question because I cannot even imagine. I can imagine a crowd in a stadium, 80,000, 100,000. This is a lot in one spot, but 10 billion. I mean, unimaginable. And of course, 10 billion people eat 2-3 times a day, some just once, some unfortunately not every day. But nevertheless, food is probably the most important topic in life because it means to have the energy to live on. And if you come a little bit closer, you could enjoy the words of this big master of long-term projects, of this master of unique topics, and the master of being in a field of photography which is on the brink of dying out, unfortunately, because these topics are really needed to understand the world. So please come a little closer and welcome Mr. George Steinmetz.
Thank you, Lois. Can you all hear me okay? Thank you for enduring. It's a very long day of photography, and this is a very long exhibit. I started this project 13 years ago. My specialty is aerial photography, particularly flying a motorized paraglider. And an editor at National Geographic asked me to do a story that they called Feeding 9 Billion. Now it's actually going to be 10 billion. And it was a story about how we're going to meet the future food demands of humanity. And at the time, 13 years ago, they were estimating that we're going to have to double the global food supply by 2050 to meet increasing demand. And part of that is increasing numbers of people on the planet, but the bigger issue is changing diets in the developing world, particularly in countries like China, Brazil, Indonesia, where people want to have a diet more like we have in Europe or in the United States, eating more protein. You need more food to feed all those pigs, chickens, and ducks. So they asked me to photograph this story because I was a specialist in low altitude aerial photography, and I thought it'd be an interesting challenge. But I told my editor that it'd only be really interesting if I could photograph mega farms, because then you could grasp the challenge of feeding so many people, and also visually it'd be really stunning to see the patterns. And so I started off looking at mega farms. I went to this is one of the largest soybean farms in the world. It's in Brazil, 30,000 hectares. And in the last day of the harvest, they gather all the combines for one last big hurrah through the soybean fields. And I went to other mega farms, like this is called the Mar de Plástico, the Sea of Plastic in southern Spain, near Almeria, where it's the world's biggest expanse of plastic greenhouses. And as I traveled around, I didn't know much about food, but I learned a lot just by talking to local farmers. And I realized that a big part of the challenge we face is to maximize the amount of food we can grow from the existing agricultural footprint. Because if we're going to double the global food supply, the goal should be to use the existing footprint. We have to double our productivity. And so I was looking at solutions to that problem. And there are a lot of pictures here, and each one has its own story. Overall, after this assignment for National Geographic, I decided it was too big a story that I could do in just 6 months. So I did 2 other projects for the Geographic, one in China, one on oceans. And that wasn't enough for me. I was kind of obsessive, and I spent 10 years. I went to 37 different countries. In the last few years, fieldwork, I had to fund myself because I was looking at kind of obscure things like how hops is grown in Bavaria, or I wanted to look at the spice trade in India. And it was an obsessive work. I made 5 trips to China, 3 trips to India. I went to Brazil, I think 5 or 6 times. Brazil's a really interesting place for food production. So I don't want to go and narrate every single photo, but every picture tells a different story. And I was trying to photograph the scale of it. And the overall goal for me at the end of it was to provide more transparency to our food system. And I was interested in the process, but also interested in the ramifications of our daily food choices. And we all vote with a fork 3 times a day. And those votes have significant impact. And you can, for example, you can buy farm-raised salmon or wild salmon, and those have different environmental impacts. And I'm not trying to preach and tell people what to do. I'm not telling you to eat organic or eat your vegetables. I'm just saying you should think about where your food comes from and try to make more informed choices, because those choices have important impacts. So thank you for coming. And it's a long exhibit. You should go and have a chance to look at the work and read some of the captions. Thank you.
Next venue is Isolde and Diese Bornemann. We walk down. George is guilty that this story is here. The reason was simple. Isolde and Diese and Silvia and me, we are friends. And so, of course, we talk about what comes up next here. And when I answered the question beside others with the name of George Steinmetz and the topic, I have an idea. It's always very dangerous if someone says, I have an idea. And I knew what will be ahead, because Diese is not only a very popular television anchor for economics. He has a magazine every Thursday at 9 p.m., I think. No, sorry,
10:30.
10:30. Nevertheless, quite popular and really good since quite many years.
For about 8 years.
8 years. And it sets standards in our country about being informed in economics. Well, when I mentioned the topic, he said, I have an idea. And the idea was, do you know how much every one of us throws away every year? Yes? That a lot has a number. It's 75 kilos. And then slowly an idea was created on the table, and this is the result. And Isolde, his wife, which is a food blogger, and Diese created a concept around this waste and how we could learn to avoid it. Please welcome Isolde, or how we call her tenderly, Easy, and Diese Bornemann.
Thank you, Lois. Easy is short for Isolde, doesn't mean that she's easy. Dieter, in English, dieter, is somebody who is always on diet, which I sometimes should be. Anyway, thanks for still interesting in photography. It's a long day for all of us. And our project, in a few words, we asked 11 families in Austria to write down for 4 weeks which kind of food waste they have. And everybody we asked said, we don't throw away any food because it's precious. We don't waste food. But after 14 days, most of them told us, oh, it's much more than we thought. And after 4 weeks, they told us we tried to write everything on the list. So that's okay. And as Lois already mentioned, Easy is a food blogger, and she created recipes with the stuff the people threw away. So what we try to do is a positive approach to avoid food waste. What can you do not to get all these 75 kilograms, which are approximately 160 pounds, I guess, an average Austrian just threw away? There's one picture right here. We built up these 75 kilograms on one picture so you can see how much that is. And we also created an object of photography, a 3D object. Here on these Euro pallets, there are 75 kilos built up there. So, yeah, I guess that's my part. What's yours?
And tell you a little bit about the families, because it's really interesting what are their issues when they have a look at their waste. And it's very interesting. In every family there is one person who takes very serious the fact of Mindesthaltbarkeitsdatum. It's called in German, it's the same as best before in English, but they think, okay, when the date is, I have to throw it away, otherwise I die. And that's really a big problem, because a lot of people don't follow their senses, to see, to smell, to taste, is it good or not? And that's one learning for us. And another one is, it's in general, more of 50% people throw away is in private households, not the industries, the culture. All of us, we throw away more than 45% of all food food waste is from us. And I think there is a lot to do for everybody of us, and that's the reason why we do this project, because we want to create more awareness about it. And there is also a book. People who stay in hotel have it in their goodie bags. I hope you will find also some reasons to have a look at your own behavior. That's it.
So each and everybody of you staying at the hotel should have a look at their goodie bag, because of the generosity of Lois and Silvia. They sponsored the book, and it's in your goodie bag. It's called Aufgegessen, in English, eaten up. So have fun, and thanks for listening.
So, book, of course, is not just possible because Silvia and I want it. We need a sponsor, and it's the best opportunity to thank the sponsor now. And maybe you show your face and come over here. Dear Christoph Kastner, he is one of the big players in the Austrian food trade. Could I call it this way? And I think in the 4th or 5th generation. So he knows about food, and he knows about a topic like this, and has a very well-grounded understanding of what is on stake over there, and the positive findings what George brought to us, but also what we as a society, each one of us, could contribute to make the world even better. Say, wait, maybe it's not so good for your business. I don't know. Maybe I say the wrong things now. Maybe we should waste. Well, anyway, I really would like to thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I hope that you agree that this deserves a big hand. Thank you very much for doing it. Thank you for staying with us and being on our side, for making it happen. Thank you, Easy. Thank you, Dieter. It's a pleasure. It's a symbiosis of kind. I really have to thank you, and they also sponsored the book. And thank you, CV. And yes, and now, Alice Payot by Florence Drouhet.
Hi. This picture, this series is connected with another partner of the photo festival here in Austria, but also in France. This is Leica. Because this is the photographer, she won the Leica prize and she was exhibited in partnership in this context of this partnership in La Gacilly. So her name is Alice Pallot. I'm not Alice Pallot. I'm Florence, but this is Alice Pallot who couldn't come, and she's sorry for that. So she's French and she's born in 1995, so she's 30. Very young, but very talented too. And the exhibition calls The Perils of the Nature, and it's about algae in Bretagne. You know, it's a really special topics in Bretagne, the algae for pollution. It's like a kind of photographic research connecting art and science. Alice Pallot tries to explore the influence of man and science on nature and the link that develops between them. It's a kind of anticipation documentary. Okay, with my French accent, sorry, anticipation documentary. In that series called Algues Maudites, which is about the alarming spread of green algae on Brittany coast, Alice Pallot captures the invisible and works with an unconventional color palette in order to alert us about the impact we can have on the environment and to remind of the fragility of our world, continually tested by human actions. Alice is the winner. So Alice is the award this is the award for new texts on environmental photography in 2024. So this exhibition is in partnership with Leica, which is also a partnership. Leica is also a company partner of the photo festival here. Bobby is going to Leica Academy for an artist talk, the Bobby Locker on Monday. The people in Vienna on Monday.
Bernard Plossu is a French photographer. He's 80 years old photographer. He's a very, very famous photographer in France. He's a poet, so poetic. He's a sensitive artist. He's a migrator photographer, as he likes to say about him. And he's very famous and very known in France for his black and white pictures. He's working in black and white, as you see. No, but he's a traveler. And what's interesting with him, he goes everywhere, in Mexico, in California, in the United States, in Morocco, in Niger, in the Sahel, everywhere. And sometimes he takes some pictures in color, just for him, just for his pleasure. And he continues working. And we said Fresson colors. Why Fresson colors? Fresson, it's a family in France from the from more than 100 years before. And they are settled in the suburbs of Paris. And Fresson color, it's that very special texture of the photography that you can see. It means that when they develop, when they print the pictures, there is this aspect, this texture, so in praise, so poetic. And that's the reason why we wanted to show Bernard Plossu in colors by Fresson, by this laboratory. And it's just to see, just to imagine for the life. Thank you so much. Maybe Florence can speak about Sophie Zenon. Melina, because it's very important. Melina, come with Florence and Melina.
So, we have, La Gacilly is situated in the department of Morbihan in Brittany, in France. And the department council is helping us with so many projects as, for example, the Students' Festival that we talked about a little bit earlier. And they are also working with us with an order, a photographic order. So Sophie realized last year, and every year we have a different topic. The main objective, the main goal for that is to promote the department in a different way. So we have different topics every year in order to shine a light on some subjects, some topics in the department of Morbihan. And so Sophie did a really, really nice work, and I'm going to let Florence present it.
So this exhibition about, so just Morbihan, so you understood it's part of Bretagne, of Brittany, and the part of south of Bretagne. Okay? Because, okay, for anybody, it's far. So this is the French, you know. And so Sophie Zenon. Sophie Zenon is a French photographer. She was born in 1965. And this series she made, so she was commissioned by this program to make carte blanche, in fact, in Morbihan. And so the photographer who is chosen each year for having this carte blanche work with an artistic, is author process. So she's someone who work a lot with about the traditional art craft way and process. She is really interested by that, and so she decided, because the theme was about the heritage in Morbihan. And so she decided to have an old process that the name is the Oroton process. And so this is very traditional process for photography and old. And then it fits with the theme of heritage in Morbihan, of this kind of old stones and old buildings. And so the print, so just few words about the process. The print, she print the photographic images on a silver gelatin glass plate, to which she applied gold tone with a brush. So it's really artisanal art craft process and traditional. And she wanted to have the feeling of the beauty, of the precious of this heritage. Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to add that, you know, in Brittany, in La Gacilly, and in the department Morbihan, it is often rainy, and Sophie came during winter time, so it was really a tough subject for her to work on, and she did an amazing job, because what she did with the technique is actually giving life to the monument that she photographed. So it's really a nice job. Well, thank you very much, and enjoy.
This is also just few words to say that this is also an occasion. Well, we go to the next one. This is also an occasion to see, of course, here, this is Dibon panels because it's an outdoor exhibition. But as Fresson here and Oroton here, this is also the occasion to say that photography is also a question of poetic expression of the medium. And here in the festival, we don't forget that.
So, good evening, everyone. Yeah, good evening. It's 8 p.m. Good evening. Yeah, bonsoir. So, yeah, I'm going to be very brief as well. So, this work has been, first of all, I want to thank again the Yves Rocher Foundation, because I got the award 2 years ago, and it's because of the award that I was able to produce that specific story, which is it's a work about the very strong and deep connection between the natural environment and the animist religion in West Africa. And I picked up the Benin as the perfect area to go and to develop that specific theme. Benin is let's say, the very heart of the animist religion, the voodoo. This is maybe I'm sure it's a word that you've heard about. I mean, it's a religion you've maybe heard about. So yeah, because of previous work that I did on the voodoo religion in West Africa, Haiti, in the United States, I had very strong connections with the highest authority of the voodoo in Benin. He granted me a very, very special access. I mean, entering those sacred forests, which are basically, I mean, as a non-initiated person, as a white man, as a photographer, of course, it was not possible to go inside, I mean, to get inside the forest. And this man
I think he really understood the goal of this work, to highlight the very strong connection between environment and the religion. And the key reason why I proposed to do this story is because, in this part of in Africa, most of the forests are being destroyed every single day, and the last plots of primary forest are still existing because they have this religious status to be sacred. And he gave me that permission to get inside those forests. So I spent 3 weeks in Benin, and then it was very intense. Lots of beautiful moments of people performing very strong spiritual ceremonies, and that's it.
Oh, just to add, to speak about Gael, because he's a fantastic documentary photographer and a fantastic photojournalist, really. And what is fantastic with him, that he makes so different stories, what we do. What you see here in Benin, and last year he had an crazy exhibit on a totally different opposite of what you see here about the nature, because it was a work about trunk, this crazy drug, that we can find now in the States. But Gael takes a long time project, but I'm very, very, very happy to make this work with him. Really.
You see, he's a nice man at the end.
Now we're going to see the picture from my shoot. Ulla is fantastic.
The one and only. And last. The one and only last. Yeah? How long? Ulla, 10 minutes?
How long? I can be shorter.
As you like. Because we like to announce it. I was asked today what is my favorite exhibition. And it's this one. It's far away from I really live in photography because I'm a documentary photojournalistic photographer. I'm a journalist in the bottom of my heart. But this work has a beautiful connection between the urgent needs of our planet and the very personal photography project. So what TAMARA DEAN is doing, she uses in many pictures her own body to cry, to scream out that we are about to lose the connection between our planet, about Earth, about our soil, and us, about her himself. And now I have the pleasure to announce TAMARA DEAN by Florence Drouhet.
Well, you told the same thing I wanted to tell you, So this is, and also today, this is the last exhibition about by an Australian artist. Unfortunately, she couldn't come, but this is after we leave Australia. Okay, so TAMARA DEAN, she's 1976. And she's an Australian photo media artist. Her practice extends across photography, installation, and moving image. The title of the series is In Search of an Eden. This is the program. Over the past decades, TAMARA DEAN has distilled the conceptual narrative within her work, expressed by a very simple way that we, humans, are not separate or superior of nature. Rather, acknowledging that we are a part of nature, as vulnerable to the same environmental pressure as every other living creature. In 2020, in Australia, well, all over the world, the COVID pandemic was compounded by another trauma, well, in Australia by another trauma, the big fire. We had the exhibition before about. And to escape the anxiety of these troubled periods, TAMARA DEAN created a series of, and she shot in various gardens using her body as Lois said. She wanted to illustrate some illuminated point in the landscape. She said she immersed her body in ice water, put herself in very uncomfortable locations, and finally, for instance, inside the earth with bees around and so on. Finally, at the end of the day, of each day, Body had scratches and this kind of, trouble. And she felt like re-energized by that and by this physical sensation. And then she felt alive. She had the sensation of being alive. So, well, this is the reason she wanted to alert us about and to make this series about connection with our body and the nature. And she's looking for the beauty in objects, in people, in natural world. Constantly, she's looking for the beauty. And since she was a child, she wanted to keep her sense of wonder about the world around her, spite of everything. So I think in these troubled times, right now, it's like a kind of lesson for us. We should follow her.
If you would like to do some favor to TAMARA DEAN, she wrote me an email yesterday that I know that she cannot come, but she asked me if I could ask everyone here to send as many pictures of her exhibition. So if you don't mind, connect you with her email, and whoever did a picture about her, I think she would have a lot of joy if you send a shot of her exhibition, Tamara. Thank you so much. Very personal situation. How is the sentence? Alessandro Cinque by Cyril Drouhet.
Will be brief, okay? So Alessandro Cinque is an Italian photographer. He's a documentary photographer. It's a very long time project he made here. It's 7 years of work. And if he could make this work, it's because of the prize won from an NGO, CCFD, Terre Solidaire. It means he received 30,000 euros for making this work. And this work concerns Andean countries. And the idea was to show the coexistence between mining project, very important mining project, and the place of the indigenous people from India on the countries. So it's about pollution. It's about a lot of traffic. It's about the problem like we say in the title. It means soiled earth, damages bodies, and how the mining takes power in the Andean countries. And when you look at the pictures, maybe you can think about a very famous and prestigious photographer from Peru, Martin Chambi, and we are in the same spirit of Martin Chambi, and it's true that Alessandro Cinque tries to inspire from the work of Chambi. So thank you for him.
Yeah. To follow up Lois, we have to hurry up, so I start right away. I will keep it a little short, but I would like really to mention a few things in the beginning. Around 50 years ago, I was aware of the photography market in the United States. And I think I really have to appreciate the United States in this election. I had my best friend at that time. He was a kind of tourism manager, and his relative lived in Dallas, Texas. And he was manager of at that time, most famous hotels in the United States, the Fairmont Hotel in Texas. And he always told my friend, please come over you can start a big career here with your talent. But my friend always said, I don't want to go alone to the United States. You want to photograph anyway the United States. So let's go together. So I was at that time studying and always trying to earn some money during the summer month, be able to do my travels and work in photography. So I decided to come with him to Dallas, Texas in the summer month. And it was more than 40 degrees there in the city. And I was supposed to get a job at the Fairmont Hotel as a breakfast waiter. to work there in the morning for 5 hours. And the manager was away at that time on Hawaii because he was also the leader of the American cook team. And there were the Olympics and the American or the World Championships of cooking. So we arrived there, and they knew that we will arrive. But then they told us, well, we can't give you the job now. We have to wait until the manager returns. But you can for sure go to the swimming pool and bath there and relax until he returns after 2 days. So we went to the swimming pool, and of course they told me also, don't worry about your job, the breakfast waiter, because at that hotel, mostly rich American women, if over the summer month, if they hear that you are coming from the country where the sound of music was composed, they will not watch you how you work. They will only listen to you. So this was my start in the United States. But at that time, I knew that in Dallas, Texas, there was one of the 3 first American art galleries for photography. There was one in New York, Whitkin Gallery, and in Dallas, the After Image Gallery that still exists there, and the Western Gallery in Carmel, California. So I thought, this could be a good idea to get in close contact with the gallery to learn more about art photography. And this was one of the best choices in my life, because after finishing at the Fairmont Hotel at noon, every day went from 1 to 6 o'clock in the evening to the gallery, all the original prints of the most famous American photographers that I have never seen or read about before, because in Europe at that time, there was no market for art photography. This was 75. And, so I spent there 4 weeks. Every day in the afternoon, I knew every image the gallery had there, but I realized one thing. Color photography, there was not much there. That time, I liked black and white photography anyway more. And because it looked to me also, like mentioned before, looked more serious. And the color was mostly used just because of the effect. And I didn't really like that. But then after this relationship, that was the funny situation. The gallery owner told me, start working in Dallas. Make a project in Dallas. And I did that. And after, just before I left to the Southwest, he told me to show him the images that I have done. And he said, listen, wait a little. I have to call the director of the Museum of Fine Arts in Dallas. Maybe he gives you a show. But this did not work out. But I got, a few years later, I got the show at my first gallery exhibition in an art gallery in Dallas, Texas. This time in Dallas was very, very important for me to come to that decision that this should be the rest of my life, to be engaged in this type of work. And actually, it worked out. And one more thing, and I always, since at that time, many photographers worked with large format cameras. I was still working with a 35 millimeter camera in black and white and color also. I returned after that, since that was quite successful. I returned to the States in 79. I was also there in 77, but then I returned in 79. And then I found in New York the book of Joel Meyerowitz in a bookshop. And the book was called Cape Light. And I learned about him, that he had also changed from 35 millimeter to 8 by 10 large format color and only worked in color. At that time, there was an exhibition at the Boston Museum of Fine Arts of his work, but I thought about starting a project in the United States even to have the confrontation with one of the most famous American photographers. So I made a big decision for myself. Forgot about the 35mm. I bought me in New York a 4x5-inch large format camera, similar one that Vici used 30 or 40 years before that in the streets of New York. So I started, and I made some other very important decisions for my work that is still the same until today. I only wanted to use lens, just the normal lens. I wanted to adapt my eye to the lens. So everything what I see will be finally appear in the picture as I had seen it. Then I only wanted to photograph with color negative film, no other film. Then I also decided to photograph with an tungsten light negative film. So I almost never photograph in tungsten light. It means during nighttime and so on. But at that time, I still made my own prints in the darkroom. One reason that I wanted to go as big as Joel went with 8x10-inch, I decided to use the 4x5-inch negative because I wanted to do my own prints in my darkroom. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been possible financially and so on because you need big larges. So I started, and the decision for the tungsten light film was only because, and all the other decisions as well, I didn't want to think about one moment during my work on the technique. The technique should work, and I could do it as easily as possible. I just wanted to focus on the image. And therefore, also the tungsten light film, because in my darkroom, the tungsten light film was the film that was the most sensitive for a large variety of exposure times, from starting from 1 to 125th of a second to 2 minutes. And you did not have any color shiftings in these times. So these decisions were all practically and especially not, as I mentioned before, to have any influence on my looking and my seeing of images. And this is the same thing until today. I have never done any picture with another kind of camera, of course, other kind of cameras, but not with another format. The images you see here are all made between 1979 and 1999. There is one image here. This is my last thing I want to mention. The one with the skyscraper and the room in there from Los Angeles. Now we come back to the Kluge Köpfe presentation, because after the Kluge Köpfe, as I mentioned before, so many agencies and companies contacted me to do an advertising campaign for them, but I wasn't never really interested in continue to the assignment photography. But one Austrian bank contacted me once and said, we want that you do for an advertising a picture for us. We want to have photographed a skyscraper anywhere in the world where it's possible, with only one room lighted. And you can imagine how difficult that is, because usually skyscrapers are very close together, so they reflect each other, so you will never find a dark skyscraper. But I found this one in Los Angeles. I only had to find out actually the ad finally that was used to photograph 1 hour later. So everything was quite dark. You could still see the skyscraper. And the room was lightened also. This skyscraper was actually closed down for renovation. So nobody worked in there. Only the workers used this room for doing some jobs in there. So I had to find a place around there to go on the roof, lower a skyscraper. I could set up my camera, and then I did this photograph. The idea of the bank was the advertising that somebody wants to come up to the top. And therefore, he's still working at night. All the others left the building already. So this is the connection again to my work at the Kluge Köpfe. Thank you. To Provincetown, where Joel Meyerowitz had rent cottage house, the one you see over there. He mostly photographed his first book where he got famous with only at this cottage. So there you also see flexibility of an artist. You don't need much. You can actually, if the right ingredients, you can find your personal approach. And so he did most of the book in this cottage with the landscapes from the outside and so on. And when I came first time to Provincetown, to Cape Cod, I was very much depressed because on every corner I saw the Meyerowitz photograph he had done before. I already thought about it to photograph at Provincetown, but then I got interested maybe to find different things that he had not photographed. So that I started, and you will find some of the photographs over there. That was the result of this type of my depression with his work.
Thank you. This is Ulla, Lohmann, a story about resilience, a story about living volcanoes, a story about surviving volcanoes. Well, sum it up, just Ulla. Absolute Ulla. Here she is.
Thank you so much. Wir haben Remy. Thank you long. Habt ihr hoffentlich alle verstanden? I hope I got very touched by your compliments. So thank you very much for giving me the honor to be the last person. You said it's just because of the order, but I feel very honored to be at the end about a story about resilience and a culture at risk. The people living around an active volcano. I was able to photograph thanks to the Yves Rocher Foundation in Brittany. And guess where there is one of the biggest hotspots of biodiversity? In a place called New Britain in Papua New Guinea. So I was sent from Brittany to Papua New Guinea to New Guinea. I was able to go there twice. And it's a vast island. I mean, on the map, it looks like very small place. Papua New Guinea for us, it's far, but it's the second biggest island in the world. Off this big island, it's just a small island on the map. In reality, it's hundreds of kilometers long, and I wanted to cover it. So I thought it's a really good way to explore by foot, because there are very dense forests, there are very deep caves, unexplored, nobody has ever been, a lot of reefs under the water. Good condition, yes, to go there. But I thought, it's boring to go alone. You always need a good team to go with. So who could be better than my partner and my son? But at this time, he was like a 4-year-old child. And he became 5 in the course of the project because I was sent several times. So I crossed the jungle for several weeks with my 5-year-old child. This reportage was all done in the big, deep jungle on expedition, but as a family expedition. So these people have showed me why everything is possible, because they live in the shadow of an active volcano. The volcano destroys their livelihood every day. It spits ash as here it snows. And at the same time, the people are happy. They accept what they have. And they take their children in this environment as well. Here, they are jumping, they're happy, they're in the ocean. So why not taking my child in these environments? Because I have been in Papua New Guinea for a long time. I've spent a lot of my time in this place, learning the language, living with the people, getting their trust. So for me, it was a no-brainer taking my baby with me as well when he was born. So from a very early age, I was photographing with everybody, with my child, and it allowed me to get deeper into the society as well by being just me. I am who I am. I come with whoever I come with. They respect this because what I learned from these people on the other side of the world, that it does not matter how we look and what we have. It matters who we are. And as long as we are true to ourselves and we do what we like and who we are, they will respect you. They will not respect if you pretend to be somebody else, if whatever, you have a different agenda. They just see through everything right into their heart because they have to get to the essence of everything. They have to feel the earth. Whenever the volcano erupts, they have to refuge themselves. There is no warning system like we have on our volcanoes in Italy, where every heartbeat of the volcano we should know. They have only their common sense and only their feeling for nature. So, you know how they predict a volcano erupting? There is a little chicken. It's one of the pictures you see a man getting eggs from the ground because this chicken is very clever. Lays the eggs in the hot volcanic soil and leaves it up to the volcano to incubate the eggs. It's actually a really lazy chicken and a really clever wife because the woman, they just lay the eggs. Then they fly off and they do their thing. So the volcano incubates the eggs. But whenever the volcano is close to erupting, the gases move up. The earth gets warmer and this chicken has like a thermometer in the beak. And whenever the ground heats up, the chicken lays the eggs higher on the surface. So the locals know a volcano will erupt and nobody is endangered. It's very important to feel this connection with nature because it does not only protect, but it also gives life. They see their forest as a hardware store, as a supermarket, as a pharmacy, as a playground, everything. The forest is important. It's one of the hotspots of biodiversity on the planet. I was able to spend several weeks in the forest discovering new species. 4 weeks of new species the scientists have found. But the forest disappears at a really quick rate. 20 years, 10% of the entire forest from this small island is gone. One of my favorite pictures is the very last picture. It's a drone shot of an area where I have been 5 years ago. We talked about the project. I said to Cyril, there's this fantastic place in New Britain. And Cyril was like, wow, this is so cool to have Brittany supporting a project in New Britain. So go. And I told him there's this vast rainforest called the Nakanai Mountains, which is proposed as a World Heritage Site. So we said, perfect. That's a really great place to explore because also there is an active volcano which shields this mountain range. I went back to the same place, but the rainforest was locked. It was gone. Just behind the volcano, the rainforest remains because it's too mountainous. The people cannot log it and nobody really wants to be next to active volcano except me. I want to go there. So the volcano basically protects not only the environment, but also the way of life. And the people are more rooted and more grounded with their environment by living with it. And they see the volcano also as a protector. So for me, what I have taken away from this project is one, to accept the living conditions we have and make the best out of it. So basically, the volcano teaches me that we can have a very happy life by enjoying what's given to us because it's a present. We are very small and nature is so big, but we can live every day to the fullest. Every day is a present. Also, what I have learned is that it's about sharing. If you have this joy of life, like these children have, they share. They want to make everybody happy. They made me jump with them in the water as well. And I'm like, yippee, that is so cool. Whenever you have these moments, share. And that's why we all want to have these moments. We all have photographs. We all take pictures with our phones, in our memories. We look at the pictures of others. It's all about sharing. Whatever our story is, we can share. So thank you very much for allowing me to able to share my story, and for you all to share your stories. Thank you so much.
A beautiful ending. And what do we have to do now? There's a pond ahead. This pond, Ulla just told us how much fun it is to jump into the water. All together, you're the animator. Well, next year, instead of the exercises, we go to the pond. I really would love to thank you for being so tough, to spend all this day for photography, to celebrate it, to be part of an incredible way to live, because photography is not a profession. It's almost a philosophic way to spend the time on our planet. And those photographers who are involved here in these projects are of a certain special kind, because they are not living anything else but to try to make the world a better place. And in this sense, I think we joined them, giving them their respect today, giving them our attention today, and absorbing what they are willing to tell us and to share with us, to give back. Thank you very much for this dignity and the friendship in photography.
And I think somebody deserves a very, very, very big thank you. Woohoo! Thank you very much, Lois.
We all deserve it. We deserve it. We are Baden family, as someone coined it last year. Thank you for being part of this family. Never have been dreamed to be member of such a big and wonderful family. We are really growing up thanks in this marriage between Brittany and Baden. It's wonderful. And now let's enjoy the rest of the day by having some great food at the El Gaucho restaurant and enjoy. Thank you for everything.
Das ist ja schön, dass du bis hierhin gehört und neuerdings möglicherweise sogar geschaut hast. Wie kommt die neue Doppelversion mit Audio und Video bei dir an? Gib mal ruhig Feedback, was dir so gefällt, wenn du etwas vermisst oder dir ein Thema besonders am Herzen liegt. Auch freue ich mich, wenn ihr ein paar Euros in die Kasse werft, denn das Hosting, die Webseite und Cloud-Dienste kosten eine Stange Geld. Weekly 52 ist und bleibt Non-Profit und für euch kostenlos. Daher klickt auf den Button auf meiner Webseite und spendiert, was immer ihr wollt. Damit zeigt ihr eure Wertschätzung und haltet uns motiviert. Danke für deine Unterstützung und ich freue mich, wenn dir der Blog und Podcast jede Woche 52 Mal Freude bereitet und Nutzen vermittelt. Dankeschön.